men, not only.
You want to make a difference in life? You want to stop just being concerned with what's important, like what people think of you and what your position is and how much money you got and your posture in the community and what you believe in and all that other stuff that ultimately doesn't make a difference? In the realm of difference making, then you need to be willing to take a stand. And you ain't going to get any applause for it either. But if you want the monument of having made a contribution to the quality of life, then this is the domain. And as you've heard from the people who've expressed it, it often takes a lot of courage. But what if it turns out that you were a fool? Well, fool is probably not down very far from where you are if you're worried about it. I mean, what the hell? It's probably worth taking the chance. You know, I can picture people's minds saying, but what will they think? Well, you want me to tell you what they'll think? They'll think terrible things about you. What the hell do you think they were going to think? They think terrible things about you anyhow. That's what thinking's about. It's about terrible things. You want to move them. You want to inspire them. You want to give them the opportunity to be in touch with and experience and express their own magnificence. The hell with what they think.
Copying this next one with John Denver.
I've been building out my capsule wardrobe and recently bought this pair of black slacks. I needed some inspiration for how to wear them, so I asked ChatGPT
Don't make
to help
any
me.
money off of YouTube currently. Just posting this for 7 great grandkids.
We're back, and I'd like to introduce our next guest, who is a personal friend of mine. Werner is the founder of a thing called EST, which is Earhart Seminar Training. And it's an organization that began about 2 years ago in San Francisco and has taught about, or trained, I should say, about 600 people a month in 5 cities around the country. They have about 12,000 graduates, and I should mention that I'm a graduate of EST myself. And I found the time that I spent in this training seminar one of the most exciting and interesting experiences of my life. And I'm very excited to be able to have him here on the show, and it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you a very good friend of mine, Mr. Werner Earhart. Werner, where do you, from your experience, see that people are at today?
John, for the most part, I think it's about that extra eighth of an inch. You know, the people that we've trained are, for the most part, getting the things they want out of life. They've gotten all the things, they've gotten positions, their income is the kind of income they want, and yet they seem to go for the rest of it, that something that goes beyond the symbol to the experience of it, the meaning of it, rather than just the business of it. I think a good example of it is that most people, they go out to buy a new car and they expect to have a good experience. You know, a new car is a great experience. And they expect that when they have a new car, it's going to make them happy. And it does for about 3 days, and then the payments go on for a couple of years after that. And I think that what people are looking for now is the rest of it, you know, what goes on beyond the symbols. Because we don't seem to be able to get enough symbols quite.
I understand. Symbols, it seemed to me like things were going very well for me in my life, and yet there still were some things that I was looking for. Life wasn't complete, perhaps it still isn't, but since my participation experience with the training, there's a whole lot more to life to me. And there's a word that you use a great deal in the training that is aliveness. And I'd like you to tell people what aliveness is to you.
Well, essentially, it's that sense that all of us have, that thing that keeps us moving anyhow, the notion that there's something there beyond the business of it all, and we've broken it down to 4 words, or really 4 experiences. The first one is happiness, and it's not the thing that happens when you get a new car. It's, I guess, best epitomized by a guy walking down the street smiling about nothing. And as far as love is concerned, it's not that, Plato called that a grave mental disease. And for the most part, if you listen to a lot of songs, it sounds like it may be a grave mental disease. And what we're talking about with love is that thing that allows you to be in touch with what's happening right now. So you're just experiencing what's going on right now, and it's all right just the way it is. It doesn't have to be any different right now. And yet you're open for it to change. And then as far as health is concerned, it's not so much passing the yearly physical. It's a body that gets up at the same time you do instead of 5 hours later. Someone mentioned George, yes, Here I am. At any rate.
How much you know you're here on the tube?
Great. At any rate, this health that we're talking about is a body that gets up when you do, that doesn't need 5 cups of coffee, or doesn't need 3 martinis to come down at the end of the day, or doesn't need a joint to be high. A body that can experience all of those things when that's what's happening at the moment. And self-expression, that's the toughest one of all to describe, John. It's that thing that lets you know that people have experienced you. It's not so much I did it my way. It's that you've been experienced by other people. You've touched them and they've touched you. And that's how we break aliveness down.
I see. In speaking of aliveness and being in touch with yourself, how does that differ from what a lot of people think of as positive thinking and saying, okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to feel good, whatever?
Yeah, the kind of thinking that we train people for is not positive thinking, but honest thinking. It's our notion that if you've got some negative thoughts and you butter them over with positive thoughts, then the negative thoughts express themselves unconsciously. And you find yourself so that, you've got the things you've been striving for in life, but the joy doesn't go with them. And so what we do in the training is to give people the opportunity to get in touch with the person that they're afraid they are, so that they can actually experience the person that they're afraid they are. And it's an amazing thing. When you experience the person you're afraid you are, you suddenly get beyond that to experience the person you really are.
I see. We'll return with our guest shortly, right after we pause for this commercial message. Thanks. We only have a short time left, Winter, and is there anything that we could do here so that people listening, watching, or people in the audience could get a sense of what you're trying to say, something that they could try themselves, that they could do themselves to find out for themselves and experience for themselves the things you're talking about, of being in touch with yourself? And
yes, John, as you know, we talk in the training about creating space for the things in your life that are kind of hitting on you and things that you'd like to resist. And we want to demonstrate.
Yes, what do you mean by creating space? Can you explain that?
Yeah, Ken, I think the thing we can do best to give the viewers a sense of what I mean by that is to do a demonstration. And if you'll assist me, we can walk out together and do that.
Great. Right here, is this all right?
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to ask John to be the thing in life that would be hitting on me, and we'll just ask you to hit on me.
All right, great.
So, yeah, do it. Okay. So that would be the thing that would be hitting on me, and there are a couple of responses. One of the responses is to avoid what's hitting on you. Another response is to get hit on and play the victim. And then you have another response, and John, I'd like you to really do it this time. And that is to create the space for it. Now, essentially, it looks like I'm walking away or moving away.
Maybe we can do that on this side. They can see better over here. No,
okay, great. That's right. And essentially, all I'm doing is saying, okay, there's that thing there, and I'm going to make space for it. I'm going to accept that it's there. It's like the traffic jam tomorrow morning.
Yes.
If I can say, okay, there's a traffic jam there, I'm going to let it be there, instead of standing there resisting it, or instead of being the victim of it. Or if I can say, well, yeah, the boss is going to be that way tomorrow, or the people I work with are going to be that way tomorrow. And if I can just let them be that way, oftentimes the things that I felt like I had to resist kind of disappear. Yeah. And then you can even go a step further if you do that in a great big motion and move in close to what it is that you are resisting. Or as a matter of fact, do one more time. You just come and become the source of it. In other words, take full responsibility. It disappears altogether. And you notice there's no me over there anymore to get hit on. And it really works if you can just kind of take responsibility for what it is that you've been avoiding.
I can verify that. I wrote a song about it, as a matter of fact, and what Werner's talking about is taking responsibility for your life and to take responsibility for these things that hit on you. And it's amazing. Oh, it's amazing how it works, and it's just an exciting thing to me. Thank you for being here. We'll be back in a few minutes right after this station break. Thank you. It is amazing to me how fast the time spent here doing this show goes. It's such a pleasure being here, and I'd like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank our guests, George Maharis and Bill and Taffy Danoff, Bill Dana, Sherry Lewis, and Warner. I thank you very much for being here. And you folks have been just a wonderful audience, very supportive, and I appreciate that. I'd like to acknowledge you for that. I would like to invite you to watch this coming Wednesday night, the Bob Hope Show, which I'm a guest on, and I'm excited about that. Also, tomorrow night, Johnny will be back, and his guest will be Bob Hope, Diana Rigg, Roy Clark, and from the world champion Miami Dolphins, Larry Kasaka, and Jim Kick. It's been a great, great pleasure for me to be here. I thank you, Freddie Cordova, and all the people at the Tonight Show for giving me this chance, and I hope we can do it again. Thank you very, very much. Good night, everybody.
If you're tired of filling out your personal info on multiple comparison websites, only for your car insurance quotes to change like this.
R. Buckminster Fuller has been called the Leonardo da Vinci of our time. He's invented the geodesic dome, authored 18 books, was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize back in 1969, was the architect for the U.S. Pavilion at the World's Fair in 1967. Bucky Fuller has really committed his life to the well-being of humanity, and we're delighted to have you join us on People Are Talking. And what is it that you and Werner will be doing in Washington tomorrow? What is your program about in Washington?
How do you make the world work?
How do you make the world work?
On behalf of all humanity, 100 nations sharing 1/8 of the surface of the earth. I saw there's nothing to stop me from thinking about our total planet, the total inventory, total cumulative know-how, the how and why humans happen to be here in the universe, how they haven't been on this particular planet, and what we ought to be doing about supporting the function of those humans in the universe.
Do you feel there's a lot that we as individuals can do to make the world better?
I claim that there's nothing special about me. I'm healthy, and I'm quite confident there's nothing I've done that others can't do equally well or better. So what about me being Leonardo or so forth? I simply think Leonardo may have been doing the same kind of thing, but we're really strictly average human beings.
There is, however, something special about you. You do know that, even though you may not think there is.
Well, there's about every human being, dear fellow.
Richard, and that's what's important about what Bucky's saying. That's right. Bucky is a special human being. He's Bucky Fuller, and you are a special human being. That's his point, that each of us is special in exactly the same way that Bucky is special.
But I gave myself a chance to see what the little individual really could do when nobody hired me, nobody paid me, nobody advised me to do what I was doing. I had to do radio producing artifacts. I had no money. I had a dependent wife and child. How do you carry on from there and actually be effective? I made up my mind that if you were doing what nature really wanted done about humans on our planet, if I could sense that, nature would support me exactly the way she supports these flowers.
When you get in touch with the truth about yourself, when you know who you are, it expands your sense of yourself. So that, for instance, perhaps a while ago, it was you or me. If there was just so much to go around, and I had to make sure that I and my family and my friends got taken care of, and there was a little left over, then you could have it. That is absolutely lethal kind of thinking today. That will destroy the planet today because it's no longer true. what will make the planet work today is that it has to work for everybody or it works for no one. And what people are excited about is that Bucky, through this 52-year experiment that he's been doing with himself, has come to know some of the principles by which the planet actually works, by which life actually works. And the purpose of presenting Bucky is to give him a chance to share his insight into those principles with other people. When you know what it takes to make life work, when you know what it takes to make the planet work, you can make it work for everyone. And on that basis, it begins to work for you as well.
Okay. Bucky, are you excited about this weekend?
I'm excited about life. Of course, I'm excited about this weekend.
As someone who's led brand campaigns for top companies across the world, my marketing superpower I'm using to power those campaigns.
I know I've read this to some of you before, and I want to read it again anyhow, both as a review and for those who haven't heard it to hear it for the first time. This is from Martin Heidegger on the Way to Language. It's a conversation between Martin Heidegger and a Japanese philosopher, one of whose professors had been trained by Heidegger. So the Japanese says, "We Japanese do not think it strange if a dialogue leaves undefined what is really intended, or even restores it back to the keeping of the undefinable." Heidegger responds, "That is part, I believe, of every dialogue that has turned out well between thinking beings." What Heidegger means by thinking. As if of its own accord, Heidegger says, it can take care that that undefinable something not only does not slip away, but displays its gathering force ever more in the dialogue. That's the methodology of the seminar. That's the methodology of transformation. Not a definition, not a description, not a narrative, not a story, not an understanding, not information. But whatever it is that he's speaking about when he says displays its gathering force ever more luminously in the course of the dialogue. And he doesn't mean display like something to look at, but rather something to be. The Japanese response, "Our dialogues with our teacher probably failed to turn out so well. We younger men challenged him much too directly to satisfy our thirst for handy information. We are a culture that listens for handy information. Something's useless if you can't use it, isn't it?" You see, maybe what empowers people cannot be used by them. Maybe we need a kind of listening that can be present for what is powerful and not useful. Heidegger responds, thirst for knowledge and greed for explanations never lead to a thinking inquiry, transformational inquiry. Curiosity is always the concealed arrogance of a self-consciousness that banks on a self-invented rationality. What does he mean by that? He means that you think that you were born in such a way that anything which is valid, you are going to understand. Therefore, anything you don't understand must be invalid. That's what he means. The will to know does not will to abide before what is worthy of thought. He's saying there exactly what I just said a moment ago, that this will for information, this will for tips, this will for prescriptions, this will for how am I going to use it? How does this apply? How am I going to fix it? How is this going to help me to fix it? Is no will to be with what is worthy of being with. It's different to be with than to will for knowledge or information or usefulness.
One too many pairs of shoes? Sell them on Vinted.
Okay, the context. Yes. So I'll make it real simple because it is really very practical and very applicable. Most people start up a relationship, have a marriage, to try to get some satisfaction out of it. In other words, we hope the marriage will work out so that I will be satisfied and you will be satisfied. I can almost guarantee failure in that kind of a marriage. That one isn't going to work. But if you were to create a context of satisfaction for your marriage and then not try to get satisfaction out of it because you've already got it, that's the context of the marriage. But what can I contribute to the marriage? Not what can I get out of it. When you understand context, you see, there's nothing much you can do about the circumstances of your life. You look like that. Yeah, you can kind of comb your hair differently.
No, I can't.
Okay. You could change your suit.
Right, yeah.
But one thing that you've got absolute control over in your life, one thing which you and you alone have dominion over, is the context for your life. If you create a context for yourself of well-being, then the circumstances in your life reflect that well-being. Even the negative circumstances begin to reflect that well-being if you hold them as a part of the well-being. For instance, let me give you an example, Tom.
You use the word context.
Yes.
You know, I mean, how often have you heard somebody say, I was quoted out of context? Doesn't context mean all of it?
Precisely.
Isn't it the whole of experience that we have?
Precisely.
And don't you say whether it's marriage or job, let's put it in its proper context. Let's look at it as part of the whole and realize it's exactly where it is. That's right where it should be.
That's beautiful.
Leave it alone.
Exactly. You know, and it's so exciting. The point that I want to make is that we're really good at dealing with the concepts, the events. We have a little bit of skill at dealing with process and not much, and we have almost no training, almost no awareness of context. See, it's not what you think that determines the quality of your life. It is the space in which you think. It's what you could think. It's what, you know, you can't, if your box is this big, you can't think outside of that box.
Nope.
And that's what determines the quality of your life. It's not some different thought in the box. See, what everybody thinks is that if I thought a little differently, life would be better. I'll tell you what, you think I knew a man who thought very positively, and he wrote out a very large check, and it sent him to jail.
Yeah.
See, positive thinking, thinking differently, that isn't what's going to change a person's life. That isn't what's going to open up a person's life and make it sing. Precisely. When you can
take the blinders off. Take the blinders
really
off
that simple.
and look at it.
And it's that simple, and it's no mystery, and it's nothing that people can't deal with. We do the training.
Prisons.
In prisons, we've done the training in ghettos, we've done the training in Bombay, India.
But the mistake that they make, Werner, is that a lot of them come to you thinking you're going to make them rich. But you might just open it up so that they can begin to see.
So here's how to get guaranteed pay as a DoorDash driver. Download this app called Solo. The app shows you the best time to work and produce.
Some of the other expressions of the work are made through separate, distinct nonprofit foundations such as the EST Foundation, the Breakthrough Foundation, the Hunger Project, and the Holiday Project.
The EST Foundation was one of the earliest expressions of the context of transformation. And it provides people with direct support for the ways that they want to participate in the context of transformation in the lives of other people. The foundation provides this financial support through grants, sponsorship of conferences and public presentations, and through fellowships. The directors intend that every foundation-sponsored program will make a powerful impact in the world, and that the many, many people involved all together will really be empowered to make those concrete transformational results real in their lives.
Breakthrough exists to support and facilitate a fundamental self-perpetuating transformation in the quality of lives of people in urban ghettos and rural villages throughout the world. How is this happening? By working in partnership with communities, officials, organizations, countries, and just plain people to empower them to realize their vision. For example, Breakthrough has done on-site work in Africa. For example, Breakthrough has a partnership with Dr. G. Venkataswamy of Preventable and Curable Blindness. For example, Breakthrough has a partnership with Art Nierenberg and Arthur Rittmaster, experts in working with the physically and mentally disabled and their families, to break through to a reality that the disabled have value in the world.
The first job of the Hunger Project was to transform that condition that believed that hunger was inevitable and that individuals were powerless to do anything about it. The Hunger Project communicated to millions and millions and millions and millions of people, and we told them the truth, the facts of hunger, that hunger existed, that it didn't need to, and that individuals were the key to ending it. The result is that condition called "it can't be done" has been transformed to "it can be done." There is now a consensus in the world among experts that tell us that hunger can end, and it can end before the turn of the century. Not coincidentally, there are now 1,912,977 of us enrolled in the Hunger Project.
For 3 months until I got guilty, and then one said about fasting, and as you can see, I don't fast too often or too well. But there was a fourth box which said, there was two boxes. One said to enroll other people, and that's what I've spent a lot of time doing, communicating to other people. I feel that my biggest job is communicating that hunger can be ended if we have the will to do that. And the fourth box was checking. It said that I would create information, which I did. To me, project. It's that awareness that, 1/4 of the human race goes to bed every night hungry. It diminished my ability to enjoy life.
This is very much, for me, a people business. And what gives dependability on this is the fact that there's a group of people upon whose word you can absolutely count that what they say will happen will happen.
In the normal course of events, if somebody conducts a workshop, they're supposed to have answers. Otherwise, why have the workshop if you don't have any answers? So this is a workshop in which we don't have answers. And what we want to do is to discover what are the right questions here. And we want to sit with those questions and hold those questions and be with those questions and really get the questions up rather than the answers.
The community workshop is a pilot program, a laboratory in which several thousand individual citizens have gotten together to discover the principles by which a community...
Now, like I said when I was starting the thing up, what we're in the process of doing now, the community here, to getting together to do something out in the larger community. So that's why, so this is a transition, and that's what you guys can contribute to is, what's going to get people oriented back out into the community. We got our thing together in here well enough now. Now we got to get our attention outside into the community. So you outside the workshop and represent the community outside the workshop, and the conversation with you helps people to get themselves oriented back out. Okay, now what are the problems out there? What are the opportunities out there? What do people like out there? What do people want out there?
They had the people there so we could put out our idea and what we wanted to do, and it happened to be juvenile delinquency, and it all evolved into these 25 people from the East Bay that said, okay, we'll see what we can do from this. And everybody's just been putting out their energy and their ideas.
You don't have to know how to do it.
Okay.
All you have to have is that desire to have it done, and realize that the vision and the dream you have is the same vision and dream that all of us really have. We want safe streets. We want hunger to end. We want young people to have opportunity and to realize their dreams.
There is so much going on that is vital, and the term I want to use is urgent. It's urgent. And a sense of that urgency, I think, is only grasped when you get involved. It's like one moment you're playing out on the touchline and suddenly, oh, that's what it's about.
While many of the organizations mentioned are separate, distinct nonprofit foundations, they come from the same context and are linked by communication. In dealing With the unpredictable unfolding of life, this work represents a breakthrough. It is not about answers, but about living with the question always before us of whether who we are and what we do really different.
Choose Napa instead for your E&O. Rates are posted directly on Napa's site, and most important,
I am committed to that there is something about which human beings are unaware, the awareness of which transform life for human beings.
And I think I just cleared it right up.
great.
11 years ago, the first S training took place in San Francisco. That experience has now rippled out to 375,000 people living in 103 countries around the world, and that's really what the work of Werner Erhard and Associates and the Centers Network begins with.
Congratulations.
When I took the S training, it was very important to me, not only in transforming my perspective, my life as an individual. I found it a remarkable technology which had the feature of creating a safe place for 250 people in the same room to discuss their deepest personal concerns. It was a technology in which a shared experience resulted in a new ability to relate to other people.
As fast as you can. We could go on doing what we were doing.
Yeah, you're making shit up.
And clearly we could do it forever.
She got a headache. And
See, this notion about coming and going and fads, right, has nothing to do with what we're doing. I know that was the interpretation during most of the 70s, and you know all the interpretations better than I do. Clearly not what it's about. Never reflected the truth of what we were up to. Nope, this had nothing to do with what was hot. This has a lot to do with what became hot.
Man, it's going to be like your what?
But this is not a response to some demand in the marketplace. This is not what do people want. This is almost like what do people not want.
F. Scott Fitzgerald once said that the mark of an intelligent person is to hold two opposing thoughts in their mind simultaneously. And I want to tell you that the mark possibly of an emotionally seasoned person, I don't believe in maturity because it sounds like it's, ended, but an emotionally seasoned person is to hold two opposite feelings simultaneously. And I've had those two opposite feelings because on the one hand, working with EST and WNA has really brought me to the very end of my paradigm, my way of thinking. And that's really creating dangerously, because my way of thinking about fear, coercion, direction, clarity, all those things we read about in textbooks, well, that isn't going to work, and it isn't working. And I think there's a possibility by creating dangerously, both to be seized with terror, as I felt at times this morning, and then sadness at both letting go and also facing some unknown things. That's where the sadness comes, but the joy is that anticipation and working with creating dangerously. And I want to be with you during these next months, years ahead.
The organization's expression of the context that the world can work for everyone, that individual lives can make a difference in the quality of life for everyone, was first expressed in the EST training. In the United States, 1 out of every 675 people has taken the training, and worldwide, 60,000 people participate in this program every year. The S training is made available by the Centers Network, which has 25 offices throughout the United States and 3 in Canada. There are centers in London and Munich serving Europe. There is a center in Bombay serving India. And there are centers in Sydney, Australia, and Tel Aviv, Israel.
I'm 60 years old. I've been involved in unions. I've been involved in the communities. Challenge that I have undertaken because this is beautiful. This is what I wanted to do all my life. Kick asses and get the people, everybody going.
The communication workshop is offered in every major metropolitan area in the United States and around the world. Dr. Fernando Flores guides a number of projects in the area of linguistics, including action, a workshop in effective communication, He has worked extensively with international institutions as a theoretician, business consultant, and designer of computer systems and organizations. Dr. Flores is committed to producing breakthroughs in productivity and creativity for individuals and organizations. The 6-day course, the Nature of Reality course, and the seminar program Education for Living, in which 40,000 people are now participating. Integral to the work of the Centers Network is the participation of 10,000 volunteers who contribute their time to the production of numerous programs, courses, workshops, and research. The Centers Network proceeds from the assumption that people are up to the right thing in the world. They actually want to make it work for everyone. It's the focal point, the starting point, a catalyst for people to interact with each other and make real their vision of a world that works for everyone.
I'm 57, and my son says I should do puzzles to train my brain and stop forgetting things.
Oh.
Life is a racket. And you and I are racketeers. And if you can get beyond the horror of that, what I say turns out to be so. I'm talking about the possibility that accepting your own deep, profound inauthenticity, accepting that your life is being used by man, that accepting that, not like the truth, willing to stand and look out at your everyday being in the world and your inauthenticity will lead to a breaking up of the resignation which you are. The resignation of the environment of being into which you wake when you wake up in the morning. The day by day in this petty pace about which Shakespeare spoke, not like a set of circumstances, because I know you got a lot of titillating circumstances in your life, but like a mood out of which one lives. I know how to put on the good face. I know how to look good, and I know you know how to look good. And television and most of what we consider to be public is about looking good. And if you look out from the possibility that your life is about looking good, you're going to see that a hell of a lot of what you're up to is about looking good. You don't mean it. And sometimes you know you don't mean it. You don't even believe in the things you believe in, and sometimes you know you don't believe in them. But you keep looking good about it. You're afraid to express your own doubts for fear of not looking good. And again, while I don't profess to be telling the truth, I'm not a guy in a diner. So I'm inviting you to look out from the possibility that you are a racketeer, that your relationships, that your work, your job, the things in your life are really about getting these payoffs. And the place to look is those things about which you're complaining in life. I don't like. I don't want. You see, you and I are willing to sacrifice payoffs. Like I said, in our relationships, we're willing to sacrifice love. I mean, the real presence of love. Like, maybe you can remember, we're willing to sacrifice that for being right, making the other person wrong. We're willing to sacrifice that to dominate the other person, to manipulate them, to get them to be the way we want them to be, and to avoid any manipulation or domination from them. We're willing to sacrifice love in order to win, to avoid loss. We're willing to sacrifice love in order to justify ourselves. If any inkling of an opening
for generosity shows up in the relationship, we close it down very quickly in order to keep ourselves justified in the position that we're in. We're willing to give up, to sacrifice our own self-expression. See, on your tombstone, what they're gonna put on your tombstone when you die, something was left, and we don't know what it was. See, they ain't gonna put on your tombstone used up.